All right, we pointed out a little while ago an illustration about the tree growing. The tree gives to the earth and receives from the earth, and it gives to the universe and receives from the universe, and it grows and grows. But then finally, what happens to the tree? Finally, something new and unique takes place, which has taken place with all of you people here. Almost all of you here has taken place during the day. Maybe in a little way, maybe in a penny way, maybe not a dollar way, but it's taken place. The thing called illumination. That is, the tree finally blooms, doesn't it? Now the tree blooms, and all of a sudden its countenance changes. And the tree looks at itself and it says, how beautiful I am. Where before perhaps it said, what is this frustrating experience I'm going through? What is the use of, what is this life? I prefer the fall, the dormant winter season to the growing season, it says maybe. But all the while, the tree has been inputting until finally a grand experience happens, this thing that's happened here with you people. Just light, that's all. Understanding is what illumination is. Just all of a sudden the recognition of what is as opposed to what you've believed heretofore. All of a sudden, in this analogy, the tree blooms. It blooms. And for the first time in its experience, the tree has given its beauty, its fragrance, its gentleness, its tenderness, and it gives without regard or regret. It doesn't care who looks at it and who sees it or who doesn't look at it and who doesn't praise it or does praise it, who picks the bouquet or doesn't. It just blooms. It just bees itself. Now what happens when this happens? The same thing that will happen in everyone's experience here that's already happened. The minute you're on fire, the minute you feel the light of life, others see you. And others say, hey, how comes you're not rocking and rolling while the earth is? How comes you're not disturbed about this or that or the other thing? How is it that you can lose everything and understand that loss is gain? Loss is the delineation of gain. How is it that you can do all of this? And so for a while, just like the tree in bloom, here come the butterflies, and here come the hummingbirds and the bees, and you say, hot dang, this is it, and I want to stay like this. I want to live on top of this mountain. But now, listen, all of you, please, a lesson that's taken most metaphysicians in the West never learn. Never learn. From somewhere has come the funny idea that one is supposed to stay and bloom all the time, that one is supposed to live on the mountaintop all the time, that one is supposed to feel this grand light of life all the time. All I can do is tell you, not so, because the storms blow. Pretty soon the tree that's in bloom is faced with a wind that delineates it by delineation, so that it knows that it is eternal. There has to be what appears to be its temporalness, its short-livedness. And so pretty soon the storm blows and you go back home after a talk into a big pile of dishes, you know. You go home to quarreling, squabbling kids, or you go home to bills, or you go back to a business that seems to be, or you go home to an irate husband or wife or something. And you feel that you are back where you started from. Now this is the tendency in Western metaphysics. You say, gosh, now I've got to go back and I've got to do it again. Or as it would be said in the East, I've got to go back to the bamboo grove again. But I want you to know that you're not back where you started from. If you felt any tingle, if you felt any delight, if you felt any joy, if you felt anything at all, if you felt any relief, if you felt that anything that you heard was either positively or negatively present in your affairs, whether you agreed or disagreed, just so long as there was a stirring up that makes your countenance move, that when it falls away, you're not back where you started. Because after the blossoms on the fruit tree, what follows in its own time? The fruit does. And it's the fruit that contains the seed. And once, so just be patient. The fruit will follow. Now this brings us back full circle to this matter of giving. And it allows me at this time to point out a way that you can do some new giving in your affairs and at the same time be doing so many different things that it's amazing. It's a tangible exercise that has been, for many reasons, safeguarded and hidden and covered over with symbology such that it would not be profaned, like a pearl cast before swine or something. But it's a very simple thing that you can do, that's so simple that the intellect, of course, is not going to buy it, but the heart will in the twinkling of an eye. All of you have heard of what's called transcendental meditation. All of you have heard of meditation, how to meditate, how to be quiet, to sit still, to allow the inside, the real, to disclose itself, how to come in and be separate from the world. You've heard of all of that. You've heard about praying and so forth. Now I want to tell you a very simple something that you can do. It is a most marvelous thing to do, provided it's done as you identify as omniscience itself. It's just another spiritual exercise if you identify as just a human doing something, just a dumb trying to get smart, just as somebody born in sin trying to scratch and crawl his way up the leg of God to get to some navel to contemplate. Because as long as you do that, you will only have another spiritual exercise on your hands, and it would be dumb. To throw out another one, you got a million exercises on the scene already. A million things to do already. You've got a million books that you can read that will tell you how to arrive. But I'm saying here is something that you do while you must consciously acknowledge that wisdom is what you are already. The divine life is what you are already. And from that position, do this. Now let me tell you what you do. You simply write something that's beautiful on a piece of paper. Write something that turns you on. That is something that is meaningful and significant to you. You sit down and write something that's beautiful. Simple. Everybody here can read and write. Everybody here has a concept of what beauty, what truth, what reality is. So there's nobody here who can't do this. Now let me tell you what you're doing when you do this. Now bear in mind, you're going to sit down and you're going to write, and you're going to first, maybe you'll have to do it consciously. For a long time you'll say, gee whiz, I got to read. I'm not a dumb, I'm not a human. Wisdom is what this identity really is. And so as wisdom now, I'm going to write something that's beautiful. Okay. You sit down. Now what you write doesn't make any difference. You can just write about how beautiful the dew is on the grass early in the morning. You can write about how lovely is the light that shines through the wings of your monarch butterflies out here. You can write about how it looks to be in a treehouse looking out over the pond. You can write about anything that is meaningful and lovely to you. You can write about the gentleness that love is. You can write about the tenderness that lovers are. Doesn't make any difference. You can write about the beauty that you know you are. But now let me tell you what you're doing while you do this. All of you have heard about meditation and the importance of meditation. Meditation means a going within. It means a losing a hyper-consciousness of an external world of people, places, and things. During the time that you sit down and write on a piece of paper something that's beautiful, you're meditating. Now, I don't have time to go into all of the ramifications. There are many definitions of what meditation is or is. Many definitions of what meditation is, but I can just take my word for it right now so we can finish this, that during the time that you write of what's real and true and beautiful to you, you might be writing about an automobile engine, for Pete's sake, or whatever it is. It doesn't make any difference. But during this time you are meditating. Why? Because you're not, can you write, can you go within and bring forth a thought or an idea from within yourself and put it into tangible words, making it flesh? Where have you heard that? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh. Where have you heard to make the outside as the inside? Haven't you heard all of that before? Sure. Every philosophy in the world. Haven't you heard to come out and be separate from the world? Haven't you heard about the Shekinah? Haven't you heard about the secret place of the Most High? What are you doing when you go within to write about beauty? You're turning away from the world. You can't think about something that's beautiful and worry about what's for dinner at the same time. You can't go within to write a statement that's beautiful and still be worried about what's, about your trials and tribulations. So during the time that you're writing, you're meditating. You're meditating. Meditation meaning a turn away from a tangible arena. Now, but you're doing it. You're not just theorizing about it, and you're not speculating about it, and you're not sitting down in a particular position, and you're not trying to go off into a dream world or get yourself into a state of self-hypnosis or having to do any of those. Not that any of that's wrong or bad, or not that it doesn't produce or render its service, but during the time that you're writing, I tell you, you're meditating. You really are, and you're doing it. You're really doing it. No matter what position you're in, and no matter what you're writing on. The back of an envelope or a notebook, but you're meditating. All right, now listen. During the time that you write what's beautiful and true and good from the standpoint of omniscience itself, you are doing all there is to contemplating. Now, half of the religious exercises in the world are contemplative exercises intended to bring you up to this big navel, to make you smart, to finally arrive at self-recognition of an identity that you've already been, that you are already. In the Orient, many of the people in the Orient go out and through the gardens and wander, and they look at the flowers, and they look intently. Now this is contemplation, and it serves a great purpose. Contemplation is a study of the finite thing, to see beyond the thing to the quality and the attribute that is being the thing. This is what contemplation is. But now during the time that you write, you're contemplating. Why? Because you can't write a word without being engaged or involved with a thing. Every word that you write is a thing. It's finite. It's man-made. The word itself is. A word is a symbol. Usually it's a symbol of a symbol. That's why words are so futile in this kind of a discourse, and why words can't ever speak the truth. Only the heart can be the truth. So during the time that you're writing something that's beautiful, now you are meditating and really doing it. But you're also contemplating. You're doing two spiritual exercises at the same time. And incidentally, those two schools of religious belief, as long as it's in the field of religion, they compete viciously with one another. They say, I'm right and you're wrong. And the other one says, I'm right, you're wrong. And one of them is adept at healing, and the other one is adept at psychic experiences and so forth. But here, you'll be doing both of them. You'll be meditating, you'll be contemplating in one simple exercise. But let me tell you what else you'll be doing. What is prayer? What is real prayer? Prayer is not a begging and an importuning and a beseeching and an asking God to give you a drink of water when you're standing up to your neck in Lake Michigan, And that's what when you're asking for perfection and you're standing knee deep in heaven already. But prayer is not an asking. Prayer is an affirmation or a declaration of what is. Isn't it? Isn't real prayer a declaration of what is? What is? That is, and beauty is, light is, love is, truth is, and truth, only the truth is true, Alright, so during the time that you're writing about beauty, or whatever you want to write about, from the standpoint of omniscience, you are praying. Okay, now what are we doing? We're doing three things. Holy smoke, three spiritual exercises, three schools of thought. Christianity says prayer is the way. Others say contemplation is the way. Others say meditation is the way. Here you are, by a simple act of writing what's beautiful, what's good and true. You're doing all three. Now, but that's only just the beginning. This is why maybe this thing has been such a closely guarded sort of a thing, but I don't know. There's no reason why these things should not be said, even though people make oaths, like in Masonry. You take so many oaths not to disclose or reveal the secrets of each degree under this penalty or that penalty. But the statement is that in those days, there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed. Well, when do you think that what's hidden is to be revealed? If not now. Right now, so okay. We're talking about a closely guarded secret at one time, this thing of transcendental writing. Here you are when you write beauty from the standpoint of being infinite wisdom itself. You're meditating, you're contemplating, you're praying. Now, you've been told to come out and be separate from the world. Haven't you been told that? Well, can you write and at the same time be conscious of the world? You cannot. During the time that you're doing this, you're coming out and being separate from the world. You've been told to enter into the Shekinah, into the Holy of Holies. Are you not going within? Where do you think this thought and idea comes from? If you're going to write it and write your own words, where are you going? Where do you go within? Where does the poet go? Within the self. Within the self. You go within yourself. Within the selfhood, within the Shekinah, within the Holy of Holies. You're meditating, you're praying, you're contemplating, you're coming out and being separate from the world, and you're going into the Holy of Holies, into the Shekinah. And haven't you been told many times to make the outside and the inside into a single one? All right? What are you doing? When you go within yourself and take some idea of beauty, some simple statement of beauty, maybe it's just what I said. Light shines through the wings of a butterfly. Passes through this experience I am. Maybe a simple statement like that. Or how the moth looks against granite. The light shining through a leaf or something. You are taking a thought within and putting it into a tangible external world. When it's all finished, you will have written down on a piece of paper a tangible sentence that didn't exist before you started. And folks, for the first time in your life, for the very first time in your life, you will be making, perhaps for the first time, you will be making the inside tangible. And aren't we really concerned with the tangible arena, the tangible experience, the tangible world? This seems to be where we're listening to the truth, where we're trying to find out what identity is. We've been told to make the inside as the outside, and not until then would the statement would we understand what heaven is. Okay, for the first time you are giving, because it's a tangible gift. And you're not giving somebody else's words this time. You're not giving Jesus' words this time, and you're not giving Mrs. Eddy's words, or Ernest Holmes' words, or Whitman's, or Whittier's, or Longfellow's, or anybody else's. You're giving your own gift. They're your own words. It's yourself you're giving this time. It's the fruit and the seed. And perhaps for the first time in your life, you will be identifying as omniscient as you do this. Maybe you haven't done it before. ever. Maybe you theorized about it and had 1,000,000 people tell you how smart you were, that after all, God is love and therefore I must be love, and God is wisdom and therefore I must be wisdom. But all of a sudden when you sit down and say, all right now, omniscience am I, wisdom am I, love am I, beauty am I, all that God is am I, and you identify as it, and I'm going to write from this position. Just during that time, perhaps for the first time in your life, you are here now in this tangible arena, no longer identifying as a speck in space that has to be worried and filled with, or that of flesh that's a few days and full of trouble, but for this minute you will be identifying as wisdom itself. You will be being the real identity that you really are. Even if you only spend 10 seconds doing it. For 10 seconds you will be for a minute being the real identity. Once a man jumped up at this point, and he was a psychologist and a psychiatrist, and he said, well, I can't say all that he said, but among the things that he said, this is pure schizophrenia. This is to have two personalities on the scene. This is pure dualism, or something to that effect, but schizophrenia is what he was saying, a split personality. He says you're going to try to be two people, not one, but two. Well, I would ask you this very simple question in reply to that. Where has the schizophrenia been all this time? Has it not been in playing the role of a mortal? In believing that we are the custodians of life? What good has all of that done? Look at the shape that the world is in. Look at death and trials and tribulations and so forth. So has it done any good? And so which is the schizophrenic activity? The one that suffers and dies? The one that worries about its dollars? The one that... Is that the real identity? A lot of good that's done. We've been told to put off the old man by every philosophy and religion in the world, to put it off, to forget it, or to get rid of it, or to see it for what it is, to understand it. Now we understand that the human identification only delineates the identity divine, don't we? We understand now what it was for and why it is that there appears to be the human identity, and we understand now that it was just delineating the divine identity. But now as we sit down and write as omniscience itself, during that time we are living the real identity, just if it's just a few seconds, just as it's during the time that one would write a beautiful verse or a single word. Now, but let me tell you what else now. There isn't all that you're doing. During the time that you sit down to write a sentence that's beautiful, you can't worry. Can't worry at the same time. I don't care. Now, I must tell you that for me, this is the way I began. But I would always begin this. I would sit down to write just because I was feeling a grand agony in my belly, a discontent, a disquiet, felt that I didn't have enough of this or that or the other thing, and so I would sit down and say, okay, now let me try to write the truth. That even though I don't understand it, I've been told that it is, and even though and so I would sit down and write at that time. And that's the way it began for me, in all honesty. It doesn't have to begin that way with you now, because you can sit down and say, all right, infinite wisdom is in what I am, and write out from that standpoint. I used to think that I could only write about and use metaphysical terms, about God and spirit and truth and soul and so forth, but no, anything about beauty is God. Anything that pertains to love is God. Anything that pertains to anything is God. So during the time that you're doing this, you're not going to worry. And furthermore, you're not going to expend any energy. You're going to find out that if you're fatigued and beat, that by the time, if you do it for any length of time, you're going to stand up refreshed and revitalized. But furthermore comes the happy experience. Now, I can't say how quickly or when. Mr. Goldsmith, who made meditation popular first on the Western scene, stated that you might do for years and years before you would finally see or have this grand experience that would come through. And we have other philosophies on the Western metaphysical philosophies on the Western scene that poo-poo meditation and say that isn't where it's at all. But so we run the gamut, you see. But now how quickly this experience takes place, I can't say, but while you're doing this, even though you're meditating and contemplating and praying and you're in the Shekinah and you're not worrying and all of these beautiful advantages that are present, somewhere along the line comes forth every once in a while. You'll write something that you will just be darned. It's the beauty of it. And all of a sudden, somewhere along the line will come forth an answer. Maybe not to the question that you're asking at the moment, but some question that you've asked years before. All of a sudden, you might be writing about butterflies, but all of a sudden, an idea relative to life and life's delineation, what the world calls death, presents itself on this thing. So during the time that you're doing this, inspiration comes. All writers know about this, because writers, wittingly or unwittingly, are doing all of these things even when they write a novel, no matter what they're writing about. They're doing all of these things. And all writers can tell you that there is all of a sudden, at somewhere along the line, when all of a sudden a flow develops, something develops, and all of a sudden it's as though you're being ministered to by all the angels. It's as though you were being instructed. This happens to also the same thing in a lesser degree. It happens to those who teach in classrooms, who stand during the, and this happens in our conversations as long as we're all attuned. When you discuss the truth, one with the other. This is why the statement has been made in all of the philosophies to what is it, reprove and rebuke and exhort ye, or something like that, one with the other. Those are probably the wrong words, but anyway, it means to get together and talk. Talk about it. Because during this time you do have these insights, but with writing, when you have the insight, when it's all over with, there it is on a piece of paper. A tangible gift, a tangible giving. Now, in order that you can put this to test, to see whether I talk from a standpoint of weakness, or teaching what the teacher is weakest in, or whether I speak out from with authority, having lived it, I will give you just a test. Like I'm handing you a piece of litmus paper or something to see whether it's acid or alcohol. Those of you who will do this, and I assure you that not all of you will, not many of you, 1 in 1,000, 2 in 10,000 seem to follow through, but inevitably those people go on to do wonderful things. Right now I can tell you about a lot of new books and publications and poems and magazines and monthly letters and everything that are in circulation now that weren't a few years ago. And how many people have said, no, I'll never be able to do that, and yet now they're publishing and are teaching. All of you who will put this to the test and do it will find yourselves giving beyond all belief, writing things that you never believed, getting insights that you can't, that are past finding out. Here's the test I would ask you to put it to. Just try this, maybe within the next month or so. No set rule, no rules or regulations. Just sometime when you're worried, sit down and say, okay, as Bill, I'm dumb and here I am worried about thus and so. Now let me see what does infinite intelligence have to say about this. What would an all-pervading perfection have to say about this? Now let me sit back and be the all-pervading perfection and answer it, as that all-pervading perfection would answer it, and see what it would be. And then write what comes to be written. And here's the test to put me to. See if, after a while, that what you write on that piece of paper that you're pleased with and feel is reasonably approach what you're trying to say, but bear in mind that, of course, that words can never say it. Words can only point a crooked finger toward it. Words are not the truth itself. Words are like the notes that delineate the truth, and that's all. But see now, if what you've written that you're pleased with, you will not within give me a chance, give me 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, that you will say these words out loud to someone in your experience some way. The opportunity will present itself in your experience to say those words out loud, tangibly. But be prepared to be real surprised. because you will find that those words will come out with a new authority. They'll be heard. Well, before you may have said that thing 10,000 times to a son or a daughter or a wife or a husband or a mother or something, or a teacher or a student. You may have said them 10,000 times before, but this time they'll say, gee whiz, why hadn't you told me that before? Like the little girl that was told 1,000,000 times to quit slamming the door, and one day she quit slamming it, and the mother was dumbfounded, and the little girl says, well, Mama, I finally heard you. You know, and you will have finally been heard. What did I say now? I said to put me to the test. Prove me now herewith. Try this, because you'll be meditating, contemplating, praying, doing this all at one time. You will be making the inside outside. There will be the tangible proof of it in words on a piece of paper. And then see if you don't later have an opportunity to say those very words, but all of a sudden they'll come forth with an authority that they never had before. They'll be heard and understood. You will have begun to make the inside that you know to be perfect. The inside, you've been told all your life that the truth was within. You will have begun to make it tangible. You will have begun your process of giving. Now finally, let me conclude all of this talk with this. You can dream and know the truth forever. But until such time as you begin to live it, it doesn't change the tangible experience. Tangible experience is now, we're talking about the tangible experience. Everybody wants the healing in the tangible experience. That's the only place there can appear to be the absence of health, is where it's delineated what health is in the tangible arena. So everybody, and the only place that the absence of dollars appears is to delineate our wealth is in the tangible. So we want this tangible experience to start shaping up, don't we? Okay? You can dream and have a picture within yourself of the most beautiful palace within my Father's house and many mansions. And you can know this within yourself, and you can know it, and you can know the truth, and you can picture this truth, and you can go through all of the metaphysical exercises on the face of the earth, and you can try all of this out picturing bunk forever. Excuse me about that, but this business of manipulation isn't where it's at. That's not where it's at. You are the truth already, and you don't have to manipulate anything. But anyway, now you can dream. Let's just say that you're a carpenter, and that, and really you are the carpenter, the same Christ that was come to make the crooked places straight. You and the Christ are all one Christ. All right, and let's say that you've had a picture of the most perfect home that ever was, that nobody's ever built. You can dream about this home until hell freezes over. But your tangible experience won't change. Until and the people walking up and down the street will just walk up and down the street. And nobody will notice any difference in you, no matter how beautifully you do this picturing, and no matter how completely you meditate about your mansion, and about the heaven that you know you are, and the perfection you know you are. And nothing has changed in your tangible experience except your own happiness, maybe for a time. But now here you are with this dream of a beautiful house. But what happens if you go down to the hardware store and you buy the tangible nail, and you get the tangible lumber, and you begin to put the tangible house together in the tangible universe, where we want to see the tangible change? What happens? This is what you've done now when you write duty on a piece of paper. Even a sentence, even a poem, even a single word, is your inside being tangibly produced. Your house beginning to be built. Your words, as you clothe, as the word is made flesh. That's what you're doing as you write. You're starting to put it together. Now, as you build your house, let's come back to the simple illustration. All of a sudden on the lot where all the people have walked up and down, here starts a new beautiful house. Don't they start coming to you and say, what are you building? What's going on here? Your tangible experience begins to change. Now this exercise that I've given you, if you want your tangible experience to change, And it will change, and I won't say that all of it you're going to like all these changes either, because you won't. If you identify as wisdom, you're going to find out all that wisdom is not, and it's going to appear, if you are still identify as a human, as a mortal, you're going to maybe be tempted to go along with it and buy it. This is what's been called chemicalization and so forth. But anyway, as you build your house, then the tangible experience changes. Pretty soon the people alongside the street stop and look, and pretty soon you've got yourself with a brand new experience, a brand new experience going on. You have begun to make the inside as the outside is the inside. The first is the last, the above is the below. And this very simple exercise that I've given you will do all of these things. And at the same time, disclose to you the beauty and the perfection you are. Relative to this transcendental writing, all of you have heard the statement to pray without ceasing. And of course you know that the so-called masters here and there in the world, those that appear, but who are masters anyway but your own self-images that you would, like mirrors, that you would say can give me my best view of myself. They're not other than yourself. And the one called Jesus and the one called John or anybody else is but a mirror of yourself that you can, like some mirrors are bright and clean and beautiful and so forth. But now you've seen that some of these masters appear to meditate continually and contemplate and for hours and hours on end, and some of the disciplines have us with many hours of meditation and contemplation. But let me tell you what you'll find out here about this thing of transcendental writing. And here you'll just have to kind of just listen gently and get the feel of it, but I want to show you that how one can pray without ceasing. Now, when I first read this in the Bible, I used to say, how in the world can anybody pray without ceasing? I mean, after all, you've got to brush your teeth, you know. And you've got to do other things. You've got to make a living. So this activity that I'm telling you about will allow you to be in the world but not of it. That is, continually doing this. And let me show you why, and with a simple illustration I can point out why you can do it. Let's pretend right now that instead of transcendental writing, that you just want to write a real important letter, but bear in mind this, when you write about beauty and truth, this is important. When you write about the beauty you know you are, that is important. But let's just come back now to people, places, and things arena and say, okay, now I'm going to write a very important letter that my job and maybe it's to the stock market or Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Finner, and Smith or Bean or something. Or maybe it's to somebody that I love deeply and I want a response that's positive, or maybe it's to a master, or maybe something else. It's a very important letter now, okay? Now, you've got the picture. You're going to write a real important letter. Well, now, I ask you a simple question, don't you think about this a long time before you write it? And before you actually sit down and turn up and put paper in front of you, don't you say, well, now, gee whiz, let me kind of organize this a little bit. What am I going to say and how am I going to say it? You do, don't you? So there is an action and an activity that precedes your writing. Right? All right, now. Okay, so finally you sit down after several days of contemplation about this important letter, and you finally decide, okay, I'm going to write it. And you sit down, and you spend all morning long in the office, and you compose this letter, but pretty soon it's lunchtime. It's time to eat. Something inside says, okay, let's eat. And so you get up, and you leave your desk, and you go, and you push the button for the down elevator, but what are you doing while you're going to lunch? And as you go down the elevator and walk up the street and go into the restaurant, what are you doing all this time? You're still thinking about this important letter. Now, you know you do, if you've ever written an important letter. You're still thinking about it. You're saying to yourself, here's another idea I can include. All you teachers know that you do this. Okay, now. And as you walk up the street, you're not bumping into people and getting run over by automobiles. You're seeing everything that is necessary to be seen. And if you're greeted by a friend, you say hello and speak but all the while you're still thinking about your letter and what to put in it. Now you go into the cafeteria and you walk down the line and you still make your selection, but you're still thinking about your letter. And you sit down at the table and you don't miss your mouth with your fork. You stick your fork in your ear, you eat, don't you? You're in the world but not of it. But you're still thinking about your letter and about new ideas to go in it. Now, then you go back to the office and you finish the letter in my little analogy here. And finally you go and you walk down the street and you stick the stamp on it and what are you doing? You're still thinking about the letter and you're still thinking about, well, gee whiz, is it going to be accepted? Is she going to say I love you when she reads it? Is she going to say I hate you, or is yes or no, or what, or whatever the thing might be? Is it going to make the grade or not? You're still thinking about it, aren't you? So then you drop it in the mailbox and you go home. Now, let me ask you, what happens when you go to bed that night? Any of you that have really spent a day doing anything with earnestness? Say you've even spent all day working a jigsaw puzzle. What do? You go to bed at night, you see a million pieces up there in front of you. Don't you? Of course you do, because of the intensity of it and because of the earnestness of it. All right, so what happens now? You go to bed at night and you still are. So the point that I've made is a very simple and gentle point. After you've done this a while, you will be doing it all the time. After you've done it a while, you will be thinking out as wisdom all the time. It isn't just when you write, this is a means to an end. We're not talking about the end itself. We're talking about a simple means to an end, and therefore you don't attach a lot of importance to it. But the consequences are that during the time that you're actually doing it, you're identifying as the wisdom you are, and that it isn't just when you do the writing matters. It starts out being the time that you're relieving yourself of some anguish and agony, and you're answering a lot of questions, and it starts out like a spiritual exercise, but it ends up being a praying without ceasing. And pretty soon you begin to think as omniscient all the time. Pretty soon, now if it's a matter of beauty, or health, or wealth, or whatever the idea might be, pretty soon you're going to be thinking of that all the time. You will find yourself walking down the way and looking beyond the physical tree to the quality and attribute that the tree is really there presenting. Pretty soon you will say strength, steadfastness, tranquility, gentleness, coolness. And pretty soon you will look at people and you won't see forms anymore, but you will see the qualities and the attributes that is really there anyway. Not a body form, because what's beautiful about body form? There aren't very many handsome people when you get it by any standard. Just sit down in an airport or something, you don't see so very many beautiful people if we're going to be concerned with a body form. But what is beautiful is what's beyond, the quality or attribute that you can see there. And pretty soon this is what you'll be doing. You'll be seeing tranquility. Perhaps tranquility delineated as its anguish. Or maybe you will see steadfastness, or you will see honor, or integrity, or you will see service. But these will be the qualities and the attributes that you will be seeing as you look at people. This is what you'll be seeing when you look at trees, and you'll find yourself doing this all the time for everything that you see. And bear in mind that you can't attach qualities and attributes to anything without naming the quality and attribute that you are. When you talk about the beauty that a tree is, it's the beauty you are. When you talk about steadfastness, uprightness, and integrity, and honor, or whatever you say, you're talking about who and what you are. Because where is it? It's within the awareness you are. And who's doing it except yourself? Now they tell me they're going to close the building up in 5 minutes, so maybe I won't be able to carry on too much longer, but since we're talking about how-tos and what-to-dos, which is really the essence of teaching, or the essence of self-discovery and self-revelation, we're not talking, you can read a million books about light, and about the mystical marriage, about the two become one, and all of these mystical presentations and all of the ways to meditate. You can read a million things like that, but unless it's practical, so that it can be lived. So let me disclose something that I've already touched on, but something that you can tangibly do that's just great. That's just great. It is a means by which you can love everybody sincerely, earnestly, and honestly, and without pretense. It is a way to, as Jesus said, and to love mankind as thyself. It's a way to do it, a way to do it. Now you've heard it, but how to do it is no one's ever. But one each must for himself find out how to do it. It's easy to love our friends and neighbors. It's easy to love our family. It's not so easy to love the one that we see picking up the chewing gum or berating a little boy. But now listen to a secret that of my own. Once when I was in China, this old Taoist gave me an exercise, and he said, now for the next 28 days you're going to spend your time, and I want you to go out and look at someone, and you look at that person until you can see the quality, characteristic, or attribute that you can admire. Something there that you can admire. And stick with that one until you can do it. Well, okay. Now I can tell you that as years went by, I did it more and more, and it even got to be sort of a game that my wife and I used to play. We'd park a car in front of a bus stop, and we would sit there and we would look at people, and we'd pick them out. We'd pick one out, and we'd say, all right, now what's there? What do we see? And sometimes it would be neatness, sometimes it would be the appearance of... But you keep on and on until you can see something there to admire. Now, let's be real practical. Let's say that in an office situation or a schoolroom situation there is someone that bugs you, that gives you a hard time. Somebody that is the Pope or something there in the office that would have everybody bowing and scraping and worshiping him, or the grand egotist or something. These are the labels that have been given, and this person bugs you. Well, okay. You look at this one, and you look at him until you can find a quality, characteristic, or an attribute that you can admire. And sometimes, believe me, sometimes it will be like one fellow I remember, I had to say, well, he's always mean, but he's consistently mean. So he's consistent with his meanness. And so, all right, now what do you do once you find the quality, characteristic, or attribute? Now here's the thing. Every time you see that one, or every time you think about that one, bring that quality, characteristic, and attribute to mind. No matter what that one does, no matter what that one says. Now this isn't easy when they're berating you, or calling you a liar, calling you a false prophet, or calling you something else, someone, or saying, damn you. It isn't easy. But this is what you do. You still do it. You call that quality, characteristic, and attribute to mind. Now, what happens, now you can put this to the test before the week is over. What happens is your attitude toward that one changes. Now, why? There are a lot of psychological and religious and spiritual and millions of reasons why, but your attitude changes. And if your attitude toward that one changes, most mysteriously, since that one is who and what you are anyway, it changes towards you. And what before had been someone who was anguishing, you find someone there who is with you and on your side, and your family, your real family, your honest family has increased. Your family, I assure you, is not mother and father. Your family is that which lives and sees the truth you know yourself to be. That's your family. I've given you a very wonderful and practical thing to do, but I can tell you that you can do this with nature too. You can sit out and look at a tree, and instead of seeing the tree, call to mind its qualities and characteristics and attributes. Just sit there and name them out loud. Say it out loud. There's much more to the spoken word out loud than meets the eye. That's a whole 3-day thing with us at Lollygog about talking out loud and the importance of watching what you say and being careful about what comes out of your mouth. Bear in mind, when you write from the standpoint of truth for the first time, you're going to be writing the truth and not just babbling and not just talking about the weather and not writing about your trials and tribulations. So all of a sudden it'll be the... If you don't like what your tangible experience looks like, then maybe you can kind of look at what you've been saying, what's been pouring forth out of your mouth. Because, you know, the shoes you got on your feet right now are the product of your talking out loud, aren't they? And the clothing that you're wearing, the room that you're in, that came out of product of what came out of your mouth in the tangible arena. So if you don't like your tangible experience, maybe you can begin to let what comes out of your mouth be spoken from the standpoint of omniscience am I, love am I, truth am I, not